So my process is I first want to understand my audience. I want to understand who I'm talking to, their pain points, what they're going through, because if I don't know who they are, I won't know who to write to. As a copywriter, we're the professionals. We understand marketing. We understand having to utilize the psychology in writing for these business owners.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Digital Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Eli Adams. Today's episode is brought to you by FireUsMarketing.com, where SEO solutions pave the way to digital excellence. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode where we are joined by Christina Montoya. Christina is a dedicated mother of 5. She is a copywriter and a content marketing specialist focused on empowering women entrepreneurs in the health and wellness industry. Her passion lies in crafting compelling, honest, conversion-driven copy free from any marketing gimmick, specializing in SEO blogs, landing pages, website content, and email marketing. Christina is committed to helping her clients become industry leaders through strategic content marketing. She thrives on collaborating with women-led businesses ready to evaluate their online presence and achieve their growth goals and objectives.
Hi, Eli. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Just so the audience knows, Christina and I are kind of related. You are cousins with my wife, and you guys grew up together in California, right?
Yes. Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So I'm excited. So this is good for me. This is a personal thing for me. I'm grateful to be able to learn a little bit more about you that maybe I didn't know in the past. I know an okay amount just from talking to my wife. I've met you once in person, and I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more and kind of your journey that's brought you along this digital revolution path. So thanks again for being a part of the show.
Yeah, of course. I'm so glad.
Okay, so let's just jump into this. So let's talk about where you grew up, how you grew up, and how did you go from there? Maybe what you wanted to be when you were little, and then how'd you go from there to kind of where you're at now?
Yeah. So I was actually born in Texas, but raised in California. Growing up, I had young parents. So my mom had me at 18. So growing up, it was a little challenging. My mom was kind of growing up alongside with me. And so I found myself at the Budge's house a lot. My Auntie Monica and Uncle Jared and my cousin Mandy and their entire family.
Which is my wife, just so everybody knows. Mandy Budge is my wife.
Yeah, so I grew up a lot around, that family. And I'd have to say that, in all honesty, they shaped me a lot to become the woman that I am today. And, my parents did as well. But I think the biggest impact was being around them as well. Actually, when I was younger, I always loved to read and write. And I used to actually make stories. I would sit in the hallway of the little house that we lived in, and I would create these children books, and I would use my mom's lamination paper, and I would literally create these little books, and I'd be so proud of them. And I just wanted to be a writer. When I was younger, I remember loving it. And in all honesty, that's actually still something on my goal list. Of things to do for my life is I do want to eventually start writing some children's books as well. But yeah, growing up, I've always loved to do that. But then, growing up, I remember people saying you can't make money writing. It's not a real job. So, as I got older, things changed. I wanted to be, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be, what else did I want to be? I wanted to be a singer. I did end up falling into music. And actually I stuck with that all through high school. I was positive I was going to make it in the music world. And, I was in the top choirs in high school, and I was yeah, I'm going to do this. I don't have a plan B because I don't need a plan B, and, just, kind of going through that in high school, and then getting out into the real world after graduation, it was a little bit of a, slap in the face. Okay, not everybody makes it who's a great singer, and that's okay. But I kind of was a little bit lost during that time. I felt like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I hadn't really like invested in learning one specific thing that could, provide a certain job. So I felt like I kind of wandered for a little while. So just working regular jobs here and there. And then I ended up having my daughter, Alana, my oldest. And I realized that I
Hmm.
really needed to do something that, that would bring me in some kind of a good income. So I ended up going to school to become a registered dental assistant, which I did for about 5 years. And in that 5 years, me and her father had split, but I had met my current partner, and we worked together for about 10 years. And, we ended up moving to Washington State, I would say about 8 years ago. And, we've been here since. And, um, I ended up falling into optometry. So all kind of in the healthcare realm. Um, And so I worked there at an optometry office for a little while, but then the pandemic hit. And, during the pandemic, I really started thinking like, I actually really miss being with my kids. I miss being at home. I wanted to see
Yeah.
them grow and I felt like I was missing so much. And the pandemic really like forced me to like slow down and stop for a minute. And so I started thinking because I've
Hmm.
always loved entrepreneurship. Like, my grandpa, he owned his own boot shop. We have several family members
Yep.
who are business owners. And I've always seen that and wondered, like, I want to do something, on my own, but I don't know what I want to do. But it's always kind of been
Right.
an inkling in the back of my head, that I want to own a business one day. And so during the pandemic, I started searching, Googling like jobs from home, work from home moms, things like that. And I started to get targeted with ads um, from who's my mentor now. Her name is Sarah Turner. And she has a program called Write Your Way to Freedom. And so I, of course, opted into her emails and started, you know, reading everything that she had to offer, and it was copywriting.
Hmm.
And so I ended up making the leap, jumping into that, learning everything that I possibly could. I literally was like ear pods in
Yeah.
like 24/7, just learning and soaking in everything that I could learn about marketing and copywriting and, everything. And it
Hmm.
it was the best thing I think I could have ever done because she literally gave me step by step, not only how the skills I needed to learn to be a copywriter, but how to build my business on top of it. And so everything that I needed to know was packaged in one, program, and it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
since then I haven't looked back. That was 2020. So it's been about 4 years that I've been a copywriter, and I have my own marketing agency now, and I
Hmm.
don't want to ever look back. I want to just keep moving forward and
Yeah.
keep achieving the goals that I have set for myself.
Yeah. What a cool story. As I listen to your story, I think there are a lot of people out there listening that can probably resonate. I think it's very common, especially on the podcast, people that I've interviewed. I hear very often, I knew what I wanted to be early on, and then something changed, and something, it was either crushing, an accident that ended a basketball career, or it was, it didn't have good enough eyesight to be a fighter pilot, or everyone has kind of their own thing. And it sounds like you thought you were going to be a singer, go in the music industry, and then something happened. And then you're kind of like left with this, okay, now what do I have to offer the world? Now, what am I going to be when I grow up? And I think it's probably something that a lot of, late teens, early 20-year-old people go through. So I appreciate you sharing all of that because I think it's very relatable to a lot of people out there. Um, Okay, so you leave high school, you get a couple of jobs, and you get these jobs in the health and wellness industry. Um, and I see that kind of tying into later on when you're like, I'm going to be a copywriter. what you specialize on right now in your agency is helping women-led businesses in the health and wellness space.
Yes.
Did you go in that direction because of your past experience? That was what you felt comfortable with. That's what you knew. And you're like, hey, let's move in that direction. Or was there something else that sort of nudged you in that direction?
Actually, my pregnancies kind of nudged me in that direction. You know, during all
Oh,
my
yeah.
pregnancies, reading all the books, listening to all the mommy podcasts and things like that, really made me interested in learning more about women's health,
Hmm.
how women have some fertility issues, things like that. Really, just it really, really made me feel like I was at home for some reason. Like I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be
Hmm.
in that space. I never worked in that space. I knew I was in healthcare, in the healthcare field, but I never learned about like women's health specifically. I just knew from experience during my
Hmm.
pregnancy, it's like all of it. And so I kind of wanted to lean into that because it's something that I felt like I would never get sick of. Like I would feel comfortable writing about, I have
Yeah.
experience in, and I just love it. I love reading all of that stuff, even if I'm not pregnant anymore. Like that's the stuff for me. So that's
Hmm.
actually how I fell into that.
Nice. No, I think that's great. I think that a lot of people sort of underestimate their experience in life when they're looking at what they want to do when they grow up or, start a business or write a blog or whatever it is. I think that's super valuable for you to have done that because one, it's an area that you've read a ton of content on. It's an area that you're very passionate about. It's an area that you feel like is important enough that other people are searching for it and you want to give them the right amount of advice and maybe a better way than the way that you got it. Maybe you can make it simpler and they have to read less or only go to one place, right? So good for you for taking that on. And you have like we said in the intro, you have 5 kids ranging from high teens. How old is
Alana
Alana?
is 15. Actually, will be 16 on the 26th of February. So um, I have a 6 year.
Okay, and then your
My
youngest?
youngest is 7 months old.
Yeah. So again, very relatable. There's a lot of people out there who have lots of kids sort of in that gap. And so you're still you're still new into I guess new and experienced in that area of pregnancy because, because of your experience with your kids. So that's really cool. So okay, so then you have your jobs, the pandemic hits and you're like, I gotta figure this out. How long did it take you with searching and reading and listening to podcasts and all this before you finally found your mentor that worked for you?
Um, Actually, not too long. I would say maybe a month because the
Mm.
ads started targeting me right away. And she was one of the top ones that kept popping up.
Yeah.
And there was something about the way that she hit every pain point that I felt like she knew me. She knew me with every word that she said.
Yeah.
And that's a good copywriter, right? And I started to trust her. And even in opting in
Hmm.
her emails, like she was so warm and genuine and honest and not pushy, just very open with
Hmm.
wanting to help others, achieve their goals. And that's actually what made me feel like she was the good fit for me because there were other things that popped up that I just was like, no, like I'm not vibing with this. Like, you know, but she was the one that I felt a connection with. So.
And she taught you how to do the copywriting. She taught you how to set up the email campaign, build the website. Like, what did she teach you
Oh,
to do?
everything. So, the program basically consists of every type of copywriting that you can possibly learn. So, from website copy,
Hmm.
email copy, sales pages, landing pages, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, all of that. Like it all
Yeah.
kind of is in one package. So, like all of the different lessons, you would kind of learn different techniques on how to do certain things and then not only that, but you'd also learn how to build your business, like, what you needed to get
Hmm.
started, like how to find clients, how to cold email, how to use LinkedIn to find clients, like tons of different things. And each week they'd have classes from some of the people that she, onboarded to do some of the teaching for her that they would make these
Hmm.
classes, online classes that you can go to live, and you can learn from some of these people who have already had like crazy amount of success. And um,
Yeah.
anyways, it's kind of like a one and stop shop.
Nice. Okay, so now let's fast forward to now. Now you have your agency, you have everything rolling from what you've learned. You've been doing it for 4 years. What are you currently working on? What gets you up in the morning? What makes you excited to come and do your copywriting and work with your current clients?
Well, right now I'm working on a website copy for one of my clients. She's a doula. Um, I previously had
Hmm.
helped her build her doula website, but she is like one of those doulas who has so many wonderful ideas that she really wants to help people. So she saw a need in the market
Yeah.
for doulas who kind of got out of training, who don't know what to do next. They feel like they're kind of like out there in the world alone after this doula program. They don't know how to start their own business. They don't know what to do with websites. They don't know anything. And so she found this need that she wanted to fill. And so she's creating this website, and it's basically targeted towards women health providers. So not just for doulas, but for women health professionals, and
Hmm.
basically gives them additional, training, learning how to build your business, learning about other marketing tips and tricks, and things that they can utilize. And like, there's just different programs that she's offering inside this one website. And anyways, it's just been a really fun
Yeah.
project to work on. And so right now that's kind of what I'm working on. But the other thing that actually is getting me really excited is I'm actually transitioning into um, launch copy. So I've been working with another mentor named Danny Page. Fantastic. And I'm in her program and learning everything that I can about how to build a launch copy business specifically and how to specialize in that. So that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. And I really, really am excited about this new journey that I'm going on. Of course, I'm still going to provide copywriting um, for any other clients that come through, but this is kind of where I'm moving towards. And I'm really, really excited about that.
Tell me what it's like. Maybe talk through some of the challenges of being a full-time mom and an agency owner.
There are a lot of challenges with this. So I do thankfully get to work at home. It's funny because before I got pregnant with my youngest son, my youngest at the
Hmm.
time, who is 5 now, was going to be going into preschool. So yeah, pre-kindergarten or whatever. So
Hmm.
I was really excited because I was like, oh my gosh, all the kids are going to be at school. I'll have more time to like sit and work and not have all these like interruptions because, as a mom of 5, I'm constantly pulled in different directions. Like somebody always needs something.
Yeah.
And so it makes it really hard, especially like when I'm like in the nitty gritty of writing and like in my creative space. And then I'm hearing, mommy, 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 I need something. I'm hungry, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And having to stop that and
Yeah.
cut that focus is really, really challenging. Um, but now that I have my youngest son, he's 7 months old now, we've come up with a pretty good routine. So I really kind of just ebb and weave my business wherever I can squeeze it. So even if it's just like 2
Yeah.
hours at a time or 1 hour within a certain time frame that I can just sit and focus for a second, like during his nap times, I really take
Hmm.
advantage of that while I can to get things done. And it's actually surprising because even in those little spaces, I managed to get like 4 to 5 hours of work done. So, I think just kind of not having that set schedule for me is the most challenging part. Because the way my mind
Yeah.
works, I just want to sit and get things done. But in this season, I have to be more open to kind of working around what I already have going on.
Well, I love how you call it a season. There's a lot of conversations out there around, work-life balance, and a lot of people think that it needs to be fair or equal, split between the three. There's the work, the life, the balance, the spiritual. There's so many different categories that people look at, and they're like, well, if I'm working 8 to 10 hours a day, I need just as much to do the other ones. Like, it's just impossible to do. And so I'm a believer that there are seasons of one or
Yeah.
the other, right? So you're in the season of work really hard, and then maybe once the agency picks up and you're able to hire somebody to help take some of the load off, then you can focus more on the family as you grow that on the side. And then, so you have more of that work-life balance in a different season. So I'm glad you called it a season. I know a lot of people struggle with that. Especially being a mom of 5. Like, most people listening to this probably don't have 5 kids. I think it's pretty uncommon now to have 5. I have 4, and when I tell people I have 4, they're like, "That's so much. Like, how do you do that?" And adding one more, I can't even imagine. So props to you for making it through the last 4 years with all of your kids and everything else that you've had to deal with to get to this point. What a cool story. So let's get a little bit more tactical. So if I am, a business owner, a women-led business, well, let me ask you this. I know that you focus on women-led businesses, but if a man comes to you, do you turn him away, or do you work with him? Or is it just like your primary focus is women, but you'll help
My
anybody?
primary focus is women, but I'm totally open to working with men as well. So,
Okay.
but it's funny, I have yet to have a man reach out.
Okay.
It's always been women. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it could be because of the copy you have on your website. It says women specific, and a man might be like, well, that might not help me. So maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not. But so let's pretend that I'm a women-led business, and I don't have enough money to hire an in-house person. I don't have enough money to maybe hire an agency. What advice do you have for me how to be able to elevate my presence online, and so that I can get to a point where I can hire you as an agency, or I can hire somebody in-house? Like, what sort of tactical advice do you have for me?
Well, if you already have a website, that's great. A website can always be revised, as you go and as you learn. The one thing I think that I would definitely encourage is to start an opt-in for building an email audience. I really truly think that
Okay.
having, email communication between your ideal client is such a way to get people to really relate to you, know you, understand you and what you offer, and show them what you can provide, for them. And they will trust you more. I don't know. I just feel like email, you just basically have, when somebody gives you their email, you have like an into their living room, like you get an invitation
Yeah.
like right up front, because they're going to, open your emails. They want to see what you have to say. And so I personally think that even if
Hmm.
you're not, emailing every week or twice a week, even once a month, just to kind of like let them know, like, hey, I'm here, I still am thinking about you.
Yeah.
I want to still provide services for you, whatever it is. I definitely think that's something I would have
Hmm.
done straight off the bat. I'm a little behind on that, but I have clients that I work with that I've been able to help build that. And I see how it impacts
Hmm.
so much, makes so much more of an impact on the people who are in those, email groups and things like that. So I definitely think that that's um, one of the biggest things I would have done.
That's huge. And I think it's awesome that you say that, because the last couple of podcasts that I've recorded, that has been pretty much the very first tactical advice that they give as well. And we've talked on those podcasts about how you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, right? So if you say, I'm going to focus all on SEO, and 89% of your traffic comes from Google, and then Google changed their algorithm and you lose most of that traffic, you have to start over. Don't put all of your eggs in the Facebook basket, because then they change something and you lose it. But if you have that email list, then no matter what happens to all of these other ones, you can still email people and you can drive traffic in that way. So I think it's super valuable that's your first piece of advice. So, okay, so I'm a women-led business. I have a website. I have a lead capture. I'm starting to get emails. What else would you recommend I do to elevate my presence online?
I would say providing a freebie that they can put as an opt-in to get people to sign up for their email list. I think providing something that actually is valuable, um, of course,
Right.
that's not going to make you money, but getting them in that email list will. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that for me, at least, just providing something to somebody without any kind of slimy gimmicks and things like that, like really providing like great information, it just warms people up so much more. So I definitely think that that's something
Yeah.
that's really important that goes along with, you know, um, the email groups and things like that.
So since your specialty is copy and you learn from the best where she said everything that you needed to hear, what is your recommendation when you're writing copy? What is your process of like knowing what to write? Because I think a lot of people hesitate sending out emails or even writing copy on their website because they're worried, one, I'm not going to say something right, or I'm not going to, or I'm going to seem too salesy. Like, what is your process to write the perfect copy?
So my process usually is I first want to understand my audience. I want to understand who I'm talking to. I want to know their pain points, what they're going through. Because if I don't know who they
Hmm.
are as a person, I won't know who to write to. I won't know how to grab their attention or anything like that. So I think for me, just gathering all of that information up front about the audience, who exactly we're talking to, what their pain points are, what their struggles are, what it is that they're looking for really helps to kind of start somewhere. Because then you know who you're talking to and
Hmm.
you know what you're going to write. And even just being relatable, as well. So, like, if you're writing your own copy, um, writing it in a sense that's not so formal, that's more um, conversational. And I see you, I'm here. This is what I can help you with. This is how I can help you get over these certain pain points. Um, I think that's a good place to start. It doesn't have to be formal. And I know I run into a lot of, clients who have said that to me before. They're like, doesn't it need to sound like more professional? Or, I'm like, no, it should sound more conversational. You want to make them feel like they're talking to a
Hmm.
friend. And so that would be definitely my advice for that.
Are there words or phrases that you use when writing copy, or maybe like when is it appropriate to write first person versus third person? Like, um, walk us through that process. If I'm a client and I come to you and you're teaching me how to do this, what are you recommending on like how I, besides conversational, how do I actually write the copy that's going to resonate with people? And I'll tell you why I asked that. And I asked because like I think I'm pretty good at writing conversational, but I want to be better, so I'm trying to learn from you. So like right before this podcast, I was writing an email campaign and I'm trying to think like, okay, how do I word this to sound professional but not salesy, but take the call to action. So like I'm going through this in my mind, like what do I say and how do I say it? And maybe the answer is like, let's dig down into what do you mean by conversational? Is that like me asking you open-ended questions in the
Yeah.
in the copy, or maybe dig through that a little bit? Help me
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. And asking questions is so good because it captures their attention. And if the question has a pain point in it, then it's like, oh, yeah, that's me. That's me. And even just a mix of what you're saying, like it could be a mix of having a little bit of your personality, but also providing some professionalism in there as well. So it's not like, oh, this is just some silly goofy person. Like this is still a professional business, I think all of that mixed together can really help to connect with the reader. So they're not feeling like, is this for me? But definitely touching on pain
Yeah.
points with questions, maybe even stating stuff that's like you wouldn't really want to state, like, "Does this sound a little too good to be true?" It may sound like it is, but it's not. Things like that, kinda touching on things that they might be already thinking so that it kind of already kind of hits that objection and kinda moves them past that so that they continue reading. So that's what I think.
That's great. Okay, so a lot of the clients that I have, and I'm sure you've dealt with this before, a lot of the clients that I have come to me and they're like, this is what I want. And then I go look at the data or I do the research or I learn about their audience and I'm like, that's not what your audience wants though. Like just because you don't do this doesn't mean that your audience doesn't do that. How do you work around that when you get a client like
I
that?
usually will let them know. Like I have to be honest and let them know like this is, we're writing this for your client and what you're trying to sell is more like what you want and not what your client wants. And just being real and upfront and but of course in a kind and not disrespectful way. Because as
Hmm.
a copywriter, we're the professionals, so we understand marketing. We understand, having to utilize the psychology in writing and for, these business owners, they don't know that, they don't know that. And so sometimes they feel like, well, this is what I want because this is how I envision it. But sometimes they're also too close to their own project that they have to have an outside perspective. And so just being real, sitting down with them, talking to them. I mean, even if you can't be in person, just even on a Zoom call or whatnot, just explaining to them,
Hmm.
like, this is what I know. This is how my experience has shown that doing these certain things or changing, the wording or however it is that they're trying to write their website, changing all of that to focus more on your ideal client is really what's going to get you the results that you're looking for. And I've actually have had to do that with a couple of clients. And, it actually turns out better than I usually imagine it to be. Sometimes I'm scared to tell them,
Hmm.
but then they're like, oh, no, you're right. These are things I didn't understand because that's not my area of expertise. And so the
Yeah.
couple of clients that I've had to do that with, after explaining it to them, have been totally cool about going ahead and listening to what it is that I have recommended.
So if you're a business owner out there and you're listening to this, just understand that you may not be your ideal client. So whether you're writing the copy or paying somebody to do it, understand that you should be focused on what your ideal client is, not what you think your ideal client is, but what the actual data shows. The people that come in, the surveys they've taken, the emails they've opened or not opened, like look at some of that data and understand that the experts, Christina is an expert here telling you, take a step back and find out who your audience is because it's most likely not you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about I've experimented a little bit and I don't have really good statistical data to say one works better than the other, but what about so there's kind of a two-part question. One is short content, short and sweet, 200 words, done, versus 1,000-word email that is like filled with a story. Cuz some of them I've seen come in from some emails that I've gotten in the past are like, "Hey, when I grew up, I wanted to do this, this, and this," and then they kind of relate it to the problem that's trying to be solved, and I enjoy it, but it's a really long email. Have you experienced like the story version of email versus like just get to the point and here it is? And if so, does one work better than the other, or do we kind of have a mix?
I've actually ran into that before too. And I think it's a mix. I think when you're storytelling, it engages the reader to keep going, even though it may seem long.
Yeah.
There's a point behind it. And I really do think that some people might skip it and that's okay. But then there are others who will read it and they will connect so much more with the that business owner who had written it. But then there
Yeah.
also are great, emails that are short, simple, and sweet. But I like to fall right in the middle of that. I think having a
Hmm.
short story to connect and engage with your reader, but not overdoing it where they're like pages and pages.
Yeah.
Um, Probably the best bet.
That's great. Great advice. Wow, this has been it's been a good podcast. It's been good information. Really cool to hear your story and dive into some of the tactics. At the end of every podcast, I ask two different questions, and I'm really interested to hear your answers to these. So, first question is, if you could go back and give your younger self advice, what would that be?
I think it would be to probably not worry so much about what
Mhm.
may go wrong. Instead, you should just think about what can go right if I make this step. Because I
Yeah.
found that in my younger years, I'd be so scared to try something new that it would discourage me from doing it at all.
Mhm.
And I wish
Yeah.
now that I could go back and like take those chances sooner. Um, like even
Mhm.
just finding copywriting. Like I always knew that it was in the back of my head, but I never, I guess, knew that it existed. But if I could have found that sooner and taken that jump sooner, I think it
Yeah.
would have been better. And to be easy on yourself.
Yeah, for sure, right? Yeah. It's a common response to that answer, and a lot of times I'll follow up with if your 85-year-old self came to you right now and gave you that same advice, are there things that you would need to change right now to follow that same advice you just gave your younger self?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you should do that then, right?
And stop holding myself back
Yeah.
for dumb things, dumb little fears that kind of pop in your head. The imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's right. Hindsight's always 2020 though. It's easier to look back and say, I wish I'd have done this. It's harder when you're in the middle of it for
Yes.
sure. So next question is, do you have any books, podcasts, or leaders that currently inspire you?
Yeah, actually, I have all three. So, I absolutely love the book The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. It's so good. So, I find myself actually going back to it all the time to read it and remind myself about the compound effect because it's basically about every little step that you take towards your goal really adds up and it basically gets you to where you need to go. Even if they're tiny, tiny, tiny steps like every single day, little steps of action that can lead you to your end goal. Um, and so for me, it's always a good reminder to like dig back into that book because sometimes, I get overwhelmed. I'm like, there's so much to do. I'm
Mhm.
like, one step at a time, you'll get there.
That's great advice. I have read the book The Compound Effect, which seems like it's very similar outline story. Yeah, so I get that. That's great. Well, Christine, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to jump on. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can do that?
You can go to my website or email me. So my email is Christina at ChristinaMarieAgency.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for taking the time to jump on. I'm excited to get this podcast out to everyone. I think it's going to add a lot of value to people who are listening. So thanks again for taking the time. Thanks so much for listening to the episode today. Listen, I know how valuable an hour of your time can be, and for you to take that busy time out of your day and spend it with us, it really means a lot. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking and subscribing on whatever platform you're on. And don't forget to leave a comment. Tell us what you thought about the interview. Ask us questions. Let us know what other digital topics you'd like to hear about in the future. We're here to add value to your life and elevate your digital presence online. If you'd like some help doing that, reach out to me at fireusmarketing.com. See you on the next one.